The Search Podcast USA Edition series is sponsored by PGC. PGC are the longest serving employer of record in North America and can compliantly engage contractors across both the US and Canada on behalf of staffing and recruitment businesses. Our turnkey solution offers a unique access point to the largest staffing market in the world. To find out more, visit us at pgcgroup.com.
Hi everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Search Podcast. I'm Elliott Manning, the Managing Director of Kayman Recruitment across the UK and USA. New year, new episode of the podcast. We're still on the USA as a subject matter. You know, it's been still a growing market across the recruitment industry. So I just wanted to, take this time right now to touch on a few points that have come across, that we've come across on the podcast, and that I keep getting asked a lot about. It was last week I was at an event run by PTC, our sponsors, who are specialists within setting up contractors across the states, and also staff if you need to get them employed with on a convenient basis. These guys are fantastic to go to, but check them out. We was at LinkedIn's offices in London. We were discussing everything about breaking America, and a couple of questions that were asked by the audience are really key, and I wanted to go through them on the podcast this week for any of those listening in that wanted to get a bit more information on certain areas. Obviously, feel free to ask me any of these questions when you are in a position to do so, or if you're just interested in just getting a little bit more prepared for your launch at some point. Question number one, expanding the business to the USA. And, when it comes to this, do you do it with someone that's based in the US? Do you make your first hire over there? That person is going to be the first man or woman on the ground over in the States to build your business. Alternatively, is it best to take someone from the UK that you've trained up, that you can send out there? And the answer to your question is it's really depending on you and your preferences. I, with Kayman, started the business off with a US citizen. It was a lot more cost effective to the business, whereby I didn't have to worry about visas and start having to, invest a load of money into the US in order to allow me to get that, to have that ability to do it. So I decided to employ someone in the States. I was over there quite a lot anyway, especially in New York. And, it was a great outfit initially, went for about 2-3 years. However, it got to a point where I was in a better position financially as a business to be able to bring someone in from the UK who I could then get a visa to get out to the US to run our office for us and business over in the States. And that person was with me for a year in London. They kind of learned the Cayman way, if you like, of how to do things, and it worked out very well. So look, again, it's preference. It depends on if you have someone in the UK that can go over there, that is someone that you trust, that has been working with you, and you can get them a visa, then do it, and you can invest in that. That's great. But if you are looking to kind of get things moving and, you're not in a position where you do have someone in the UK, it's also a very good way of getting things set up by going to the US and getting someone employed over there. And again, PGC can take their employment on if they're a US citizen. Alternatively, they can be paid in many other ways, and different ways of infrastructure that can be set up that I can help you with if need be, and give you some advice or contacts on. So look, the answer to your questions in most cases, figure it out in terms of whether you've got the ability to do option one by bringing someone in from the UK or wherever you are that can do it, and you can send over there and you can invest in it. Or alternatively, cheaper option, which is also very efficient, and a lot of businesses are still doing right now, is hiring someone over there that can hit the ground running on the ground. So that's my answer to that. I just wanted to share that information. In terms of going on to the next subject matter, is what challenges you might face once you've got yourself in the US, you've got a business over there, you've got a team in whichever state it may well be, the challenges that you will face when it comes to hiring. Obviously, running a rec to rec, we are talking to these recruiters on a regular basis who are frustrated, these business owners who are also frustrated, and they can't hire, they can't find the right people, these recruiters can't find the right jobs. So I just want to share a few things that may or may not help you with these challenges and things that you will come across. geographical kind of like location, so where you're based, what state are you going to be in? You're planning on opening an office and your clients are all based in Mississippi, then it's not got a very big staffing market. So it's probably the wrong place to be because you're going to struggle to find talent. So again, it's all about being in the right location. Let's take Florida in this instance, whether it's Tampa or Miami. These areas are being spoken about a lot more than others at the moment. Just there's a lot more ability to work with your clients, ultimately depending on the market, but there's a lot of recruitment companies there if you want to bring talent in. There's a good it's a good tax state, it's good weather, which also helps, but ultimately it's a good place to be if you want to kind of build your business for those multiple reasons. The challenges on that state in itself, you will find there are elements of being limited on hiring. And I do believe that, Florida isn't there yet. It's not on par with the likes of being in New York, where, the biggest area of recruitment companies are located. The talent options are, pretty endless, and you can build your business based off of that. If you're in Florida, you still have elements of that, but, a lot of businesses tend to kind of utilize an organic route of growth in Florida because it's a lot easier. And if you do want to build your business with organic graduates or trainee salespeople, whatever, make sure that you've got a good talent strategy to get them up and running. Make sure that the person who's over there isn't going to be distracted by doing that. And ultimately, it's going to affect their billing and what they can actually contribute to the business, because it's, as you all probably know, it's not an easy task to do it. So it's just being mindful of kind of, how you do want to approach your setup and take in the right locations, into consideration when it comes to your talent strategy and the talent pool that you've got and which way you want to work at it. Other things as well to be mindful of. A lot of recruitment companies, and again, I've been including this, have hired people in the past who ultimately, you've not asked the right questions to in terms of, their background when you interview them. Just to elaborate on this, when it comes to billings in the US, in some instances, a contract recruiter, they may turn around and say, "Oh, I'm $1 million biller." In actual fact, in some cases, you're not. When you break it down, they're talking about, what's been invoiced to the client, not what's the margin, right? And in the UK, obviously, we work towards, margins, 15, 20, 25%. And the difference between what you invoice your client to what you pay your contractor is the profit and what you get. And it's sometimes worked out quite differently in the States. So you've just got to make sure you're asking the right questions. $1 million biller might only be a 200 grand biller. It's not bad, but it doesn't make you get more excited. It doesn't make you as excited, on the basis that they can come in and bill you $1 million as well. So from a revenue standpoint, it might be great, but as a profit center, as a profitable recruiter, a little bit different. There's a very big difference as well when hiring around kind of what actually this recruiter might well do. So full desk in the US means so many different things, and that's the equivalent to an extent of a 360 recruiter that we might refer to outside of the States. Full desk may mean that they just kind of work as a recruiter. They manage accounts. They kind of work with upselling those accounts, and are not necessarily business development focused. But then some recruiters who are full desk do actually do a 360 role where they do their own BD and they recruit to those accounts as well. So it's just about asking, okay, fine, if you're a full desk recruiter, can you break it down? How much business development do you do? And with that client, with those clients that you work with, how many did you generate yourself? How many of you build with those clients that you've generated against the ones that you've brought into the business, that the business has given to you, and that you haven't brought in yourself? How many placements has been made with those accounts that you've generated through other recruiters in the business that might not necessarily be yourself? Because that still does add value if they're contributing to the team as a whole, but they might not have done the billings themselves because they might not have had the right requirements and they've just cross-sold to another team. So it's just really, again, back to what I said at the beginning, is asking the right questions, making sure that you're breaking down every aspect of those questions to make sure that you get the detail behind it. A lot of business development, in my opinion, with a lot of recruiters in the States, is very transactional, and it's very much cold call, spec, leads, as opposed to what a lot of our clients have been asking us for, people that can build a community, build a network. They understand, what it's like to be part of those communities, to build a a foundation or a network of candidates and clients that they can work with at these events. They can go and meet, taking a trip to, a state once every quarter to go and meet all of their businesses that they've been talking to and recruiting for, and getting that face-to-face value. And there's a lot of things that are like that, that like that in recruitment, especially from a business development standpoint. A lot of our clients want to see that kind of initiative. There's a podcast I did with a guy called Stuart from Hampton North, and he's flying around all over the place. His business development is incredible. He's getting a lot of exposure with his relationships. He's building a business based on the effort that he's putting in and the team put in to do that. And I really see that there's a lot of value in it, whereas some businesses in recruitment in the US don't do any of it, and they're just kind of hoping to just do a lot of transactional placements, and it's not building those relationships, which the US is all about, and a lot of businesses love and want to see. So just bear that in mind. The questions are really important, and how you break them down and getting the information out of them and understanding certain terminology that you're going to come across. Culture. One of the questions at the event last week was all around culture. How do you maintain the same culture that you might have with the UK as you do with the US, and how do you break it down so that it's either the same or it's different? But look, the UK is the UK. Your culture in the UK is the culture in the UK, and that has to be separate at all times, in my opinion. I don't think you're going to be able to always create the same culture in the same continent, or different continents, sorry. And it's very difficult to maintain that. And when you're a small business, and you're hiring, you've got 50 people in the UK and you've only got 10 in the US, you can't have the same culture. It doesn't really make any sense. And ultimately, as much as you want to work towards that, which you can, I think initially you've got to take it very much in your stride. So, for example, if you've got a business that's being set up in California, and you've got a business or potentially it's been set up in New York, your cultures are going to be very, very different. You're going to have very different types of personalities and individuals, and different types of ways of life that they're used to. Whereas, especially if it's the East Coast to the West Coast. And Californians, in my opinion, they're very, very chilled. They're really, they've got a very different approach to how they do things on a day-to-day, and it's very different vibes, whereas New York is kind of, in my opinion, very fast-paced, that everyone's running around everywhere, and it's quite a lot more, a little bit more intense. I wouldn't say it's quite a lot more, it's a little bit intense, but in a good way, of course. But again, the people that you bring into your business, based on the state that you hire them for, again, you're going to get a very big mix, especially if you go to someone like Austin, Texas. They've got obviously a lot of people that are from there that are working, and it's great. And they've got a very different kind of culture vibe as well. But then you've got people that are living in Texas that are from California, that are from New York, from every state all over the US. So you've just got to try and figure it out as you go, and not force it. The more you force it, the more that they're going to see that you're forcing it, and the more uncomfortable they're going to be. And the next thing is they're going to call my guys at Kayman to get out of there and find a job, because they're not happy with the culture and it's changed. And look, 2023 was a year where a lot of businesses had to offload a lot of people in their within their structures and what they were doing, predominantly around that whole delivery and account focus piece. And we saw so much of it. It was quite bad at times. But what happens is the recruiters in these businesses then get unhappy with the culture, and they're like, oh, everyone's leaving, I don't want to be here, it's negative, it's bad, it's this, that, the other. In my opinion, and something that I think is really important to a lot of business owners, is share the information with the team. Be transparent, have those conversations and open lines of communication with everybody to explain exactly what's happening, what's going on. But also, now they need to understand what the solution is. Get them back on board, let them understand what your plans, are, so they don't see that they're panicking, you're panicking rather. They don't see that there's problems in the business, and that, they don't know what direction it's going to go. So they're going to get really unsettled and want to make a move and go somewhere else because it seems a lot better over there. In my opinion, again, those businesses that are on, that are over there, that may be looking to be doing a lot better, they've also let people go. They've also had their own troubles and their own problems ultimately, but they're just dealing with them in a way where it's a positive effect in the business's culture, and that allows them to kind of continue with what they're trying to achieve. And they then get the buy-in from the staff that you're losing, even though your journeys, in my opinion, are probably very much the same. So please take that into consideration. It's a major thing that we've seen recently, and it's a way that you can retain your talent in the business. Which leads me on to my next point of this is the benefits, incentives. Once you've kind of got a good culture in there, they again depend on the state itself. I spoke to a company, recently in North Carolina against a company that are in New York, and what they do incentive wise and how they kind of, build that, I suppose not the culture side of it, but they get people bought into the incentives. Is obviously it's depending on the people in your office. So maybe it might be worth you just asking them what they want to work towards and what they want to do as an incentive, rather than just kind of putting it in front of them and hoping that everyone's happy with it. So sometimes it's good. And something I've done recently with the people in my business is, I've asked them what they want to work towards, what incentives that they want to see themselves that's personal to them. And then we set targets up for that. So it's something that's kind of a good thing to see in America. People really feel that there's a better connection there, that you're listening, that you care. And not only are you retaining the talent that you've got in your business, you're building a really good culture, but also you're offering really good incentives and benefits, which in the US, there's a hell of a lot that you can throw at these guys and girls in the business, to attract them over to you as a company. But I feel like, ultimately it's all about the culture, the communication, and them getting a real, good vibe from you as a business owner, that you know exactly where you want to take this business. And regardless of what's happened or happening, you've got a clear plan in place, and they understand exactly what it is, and they are with you on that journey, which is, really important at the same time. So wanted to touch on that. It's a really big thing. Last but not least is just salaries and commissions and, the other benefits. Sorry, I mentioned that before. I've shared some insights on the Kayman Recruitment website. So if you go to www.Kayman recruitment, that's Kayman recruitment.com, go to the blogs page. There is some market insights on there on salaries in certain states, benefits and incentives that we've seen, some really cool ones as well, like pet care. A client of ours in LA, pay for their dogs or cats health insurance. It's wild. But people that care for that, they've got that there. The extended paternities and maternities, obviously it's not necessarily a thing in a lot of states where it's something you have to do. So, to have that offering there is also a real benefit to a lot of people in the US when it comes to that for them. But I shared all this information on there. Feel free to go through it all. If you have any questions, please let me know. But look, the US is a really exciting market, and there's so many companies that are still on their journey, starting it, looking at it, wanting to do it. But some of them really kind of get a bit caught up with all of the information that they see out there, what they believe is what it should look like in the States. And ultimately, I feel like a lot of business owners in recruitment have a perception of the US where they really need to look at more factors to make sure that their perception of what they believe their business is going to be, actually is, but more for the right reasons, i.e. that it's the right state, the right culture, the benefits, everything I've always gone through. I think that's it, guys and girls. I think ultimately, look, if anyone's thinking about it, reach out, let me know. If anyone has any questions and they're struggling from a talent strategy perspective, tell me. Let's talk about it. Let me give you some insights and what I see and what I hear and what I know, and I can give you some guidance on that. If it's kind of a case of just, the best way to build the business from a talent standpoint, I'm more than happy to go through that. Obviously, I can help out and definitely advise on how to grow the business, and getting the infrastructure set up for you and with you. But more importantly, you can't be successful in a recruitment business without the right talent, and that's where I just wanted to share a few insights and go through it with you. But thank you for joining me this week. I've got some really exciting guests to come through on the podcast. The Search US edition, sponsored by PGC. I look forward to catching up with everyone soon.